On the 10-minute presentation, you've sort of been called back by the company to give the full presentation for a second visit, but only speak about the ethical aspect of that problem and explain your solution, how it successfully handles that ethical issue. And you'll have 10 minutes. There'll be no Q&A. I will hit up this 1-minute sign when you get to that point, because 10 minutes, as we know, goes pretty quickly. And again, my name is Joe Wilkins from TRG Healthcare. Good to see this team again. And I'll turn it over to Tom.
My name is Tom Fain. I'm a retired securities lawyer, and I'm one of the senior judges in this program. I guess it's time for the team then to introduce themselves.
Good morning, Cisco Board of Directors. My name is Patrick Bauer.
And my name is Daniel Menendez.
And we are Caretta Consulting. We would like to begin by thanking you for inviting us back to speak in greater detail regarding the ethical issues related to our topic of security and espionage in the race to 5G development. As mentioned, we believe Cisco would be a more ethical provider of this 5th generation of wireless communications technology and should become a major player in the European technology market by buying controlling shares of the Nokia Corporation, a Finnish multinational telecommunications, information technology, and consumer electronics company that has recently been struggling to compete in the 5G market. Cisco should therefore challenge Huawei, who currently holds the greatest market share of global telecommunications equipment, because they have tremendous opportunity to expand into the European market and due to numerous ethical problems that arise from Huawei's operations. The two main ethical dilemmas that one must face when dealing with Huawei are privacy concerns and interference from the Chinese government, or more objectively, from the Chinese Communist Party.
To begin, as with any telecommunication company, Huawei collects all of its users' data and communication. However, being a provider of both networks and equipment, Huawei will have even more access to this information. We're talking about the data they'll be collecting will be flowing at a significantly greater rate this time that we're using 5G instead of 4G LTE. That is even 5 times faster than 4G LTE. So we're talking about Huawei having 5 times more information to collect for themselves about their customers worldwide than they ever had a chance before. This allows not only Huawei, but also the Chinese government and its Communist Party, which is really the Chinese government, to conduct espionage to the network, or even disrupt communications worldwide. This is especially concerning as more and more things from self-driving cars, baby monitors, fire alarms, everything you can think of in your house will become connected to the internet with the implementation of this new technology. The risk of 5G becomes even greater because these new networks are designed to be run independently. So 5G alone, every beacon is a single network. So it significantly increases the threat from a landscape of cybersecurity perspective, because the network layer is a lot more intelligent and adaptable through the use of software and other sort of cloud services that are very popular nowadays. So this makes it significantly harder for any government to have the resources available to monitor the security of all of these networks. And because Huawei is the one who truly owns the network and runs it, it's a significant security concern. During the last 20 years or so, Huawei has been the subject to numerous lawsuits that bring into question its integrity and the integrity of the people behind it. These lawsuits are included, but are not limited to a lawsuit regarding intellectual property theft that was brought on 2003 by Cisco in a matter of routers, lines of code. So basically, Huawei admitted and settled outside of court to the theft of several lines of proprietary code of Cisco routers' own code. So basically, Huawei bought these routers from Cisco, reverse engineered them, and stole big portions of their code from their own line of routers. So also in 2019, a case was brought on by the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York in conjunction with several governmental agencies such as the DOJ, the Department of Homeland Defense, etc., indicting not only Huawei, but its CFO, Wenzhou Men, on 16 counts that include money laundering, bank fraud, defrauding, obstruction of justice, and name it. As you know, Cisco unfortunately has also has had many issues in the past with lawsuits. However, none of these has been as noteworthy or devastating as seen here in mentioning the Huawei lawsuits. They have been primarily been due to bugs in their software that have exposed users to vulnerabilities. Nothing intentional or actually done with a bad faith. Also, Cisco finds its headquarters within the United States. Therefore, it doesn't have to be as concerned for government interference as a Chinese corporation has to be. Even it clearly outlines in its online trust center the principle it follows when the government approaches the company in a request for data. This includes many steps like notifying the customer, telling the customer which data has been requested, only given the specific data the government requires to be given up, and fighting in court if it's necessary, and refuse cooperation in the absence of such a warrant that would need such data to be given up. Now, meanwhile, by controlling the technology at the heart of these networks, Huawei, and therefore the Chinese government or the Communist Party, have a big capacity to spy, meddle, or disrupt communications in any dispute that may arise in the future with a European company or even a governmental institution. From Huawei's inception, there has been a direct link to the Chinese military and Communist Party. As Huawei founder, and not only founder but current CEO, and holds complete control over the company, Ren Zhengfei, formerly a member of the Chinese military and Communist Party, is currently the CEO, and through a whole scheme of virtual share fund, he controls the whole company from the shadows. This brings further questionable leadership further into question the leadership of Huawei. Also, their head of ethics and compliance is also a party secretary of the Communist Party. So this even begs more the question: how can Huawei truly do right by its customer if its executives are representatives represent the interests of the Chinese government?
Thank you, Daniel. Most recently, China implemented an infamous national intelligence law that was passed in 2007 that said that organizations must support, cooperate, and collaborate in national intelligence work. Therefore, China, and thus the Communist Party, has the authority to demand Huawei to turn over useful information or provide access to equipment owned and sold by Huawei. Huawei has repeatedly emphasized its independence from the Chinese government, but this law makes it impossible for the company not to obey the wishes of its home country. This facilitates Chinese authorities' penetration and exploitation of consumer technology. China can use this backdoor to engage in espionage or cyber attacks wherever Huawei equipment is being deployed. It is doubtful any European technologies would voluntarily opt in to having their data shared with an untrusted actor. And given China's track record of using cyber attacks to conduct intellectual property theft, European companies and governments should be concerned as well. The risks of embedding a Chinese provider into critical communications infrastructure are immense and potentially costly. European nations' secrets would essentially be at the mercy of the Chinese government and able to be accessed whenever desired. These issues make it evident that Huawei is not the ideal provider of 5G from an ethics standpoint, and that Cisco would be a much better suited choice. Cisco would be able to provide 5G without compromising consumer privacy by not having the threat of governmental access to consumers' information. As you well know, Cisco Systems cares about privacy. For the past 2 years, Cisco has released its annual data privacy benchmark study. This paper's analysis of data from a double-blind survey of 2,800 security professionals in 13 countries that emphasizes repeatedly that it is worth investing in privacy for companies. While Cisco primarily conducts this analysis from a monetary perspective, coming to the conclusion that average return on investment in consumer privacy is estimated to be on up to 2.7 times the cost, Cisco's global privacy program and policies have already been approved by the Dutch, Polish, Spanish, and other relevant European privacy regulators, despite its lesser influence in the European hemisphere. Ultimately, this would provide the greater good as it would allow the expansion of 5G access in the European market without threatening users' privacy. If Cisco was the provider, the emphasis would be on making 5G more widely accessible rather than exploiting potential information they would gain from their users. Huawei's privacy invasion may be normalized in China, but it is not suited for the European market and the values European consumers have grown to know given the democratic nature of their region. All that being said, we hope you can recognize the benefits of Cisco moving into the European market to take on Huawei in providing consumers a safer delivery of 5G. Thank you.